Happy Friday, everybody. We are live. Welcome to the initial Friday financial fun day. Let's make sure everything is up and running. Looks good. We're there. Mitchell, do you see me? Awesome. I got Mitchell in my ear. We are live on the YouTubes for the first financial fundamental day. So what we want to talk about is early days in recovery and talking about getting our finances right. So we'll just jump right in. One of the things that was one of the biggest triggers for me was always money. It was always what to do with it. Nobody ever taught me anything about it. I'm going to turn my microphone up because I don't think it's quite picking me up loud enough. So let's just up my gain a little bit here on the microphone. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So my background prior to getting into treatment and everything was I worked in the service industry. So, there was big paydays, made a lot of tips, and then having no intelligent money habits, it was let's go out, let's spend it all, let's, buy rounds and get hammered and have a good time and, live for the evening. And then there was nothing left. And that was a problem. Because then what happens with the bills? What happens if I have a couple of bad nights at work and then next thing I know I'm behind on rent? And so then I went to treatment. And next thing I know, it was, what am I going to do with paychecks when I get a job? What am I going to do with all of that money coming in? How am I going to plan for my future? Because let's be honest, when I was in active addiction and partying all the time, I didn't see a future. I didn't see living into old age. I figured, I was going to live fast, die young, and, hopefully leave a pretty corpse behind. So now that I do see a future for myself, it's like, okay, I gotta, make some plans. I gotta think ahead and think about retirement and think about, building some sort of a foundation for myself and how am I gonna have a future and have some financial stability and what do I do with all of this money and also I really liked the question that Anna Lee asked, which was like, how do I feel good about spending this money that I have? Because that's the whole thing. Like we're making this money to be able to enjoy it as well. So the first thing I want to go over is kind of a philosophical question, I guess, that we really need to be asking ourselves. And I see Mitchell, you posted a question in here or a comment. So please, we want you to interact in the chat. It is on subscriber mode, so please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, like us, and ask your question in the chat. And if I don't see it, Mitchell's in my ear holes here, and he'll throw it my way. But the first thing I want to talk about is, and one of the first things I learned when I was going through and kind of looking into a number of different teachers online, that as I was teaching myself some of these principles and fundamentals of finance management and money management and just overall just kind of the way to think about money and is we kind of need to define what our ideal situation looks like. So I can't tell you what that is. So one of my favorite teachers, and I've followed his page, if you're on our Facebook page, is Ramit Sethi, and he has a book that I highly recommend, and I will tell anybody who listens to buy his book. It's called "I Will Teach You to Be Rich." He has this course. It's a several week course basically of this book, and he has you do the same thing through the first week. You just need to define for yourself what that word, what rich, looks like for you. Like, does it mean having big fancy house and fancy car and all of that stuff? Does it mean living off grid out in the middle of nowhere in a big plot of land and out in nature? Does it mean having a little sustainable farm and goats and sheeps and animals? Does it mean being able to travel and just a couple of suitcases of stuff and you're just traveling the world? Does it mean, who knows? Like, really do some soul searching with it and really kind of break that down and figure out, what does that actually look like for me? What is my ideal picture of life? If you knew that there was no way that you could fail, right? Like if you could just say, this is what I want the rest of my life to look like, there's no way that you're going to fail at it. You get to paint that picture, and that's your ideal, successful, rich life. That you get to draw that picture, you get to paint that picture. Really spend some time developing that and figuring out what that looks like. Fill in every little detail, and the more detailed you can build that out, the better that picture is defined. Then you've got a direction. And once you've got that direction, now you've got a set of kind of criteria, and you can start to say, these are the things that either get me to that or don't. Because if you don't have if you don't have a direction that you're headed, any road gets you there, and so that's the first big piece to the puzzle that I can't teach you. I can't define that for you. And then the rest of it, we can break down pretty easily. So there's a lot of nonsense out in the financial education and financial tools and all of that stuff, and you'll see a whole bunch of, you know, things trying to be sold to you, like, you know, books and stuff like that that are, you know, like day planners and things like that that are budget tools and all of that stuff. Now, here's a little secret about all of those day planners and you know, monthly organizers and things for budgets. Who do you know that month after month after month after month is still filling those things out? I don't know anybody. I don't do it. I don't know a single person that still punches numbers into a spreadsheet at the end of the month to check if they're staying on top of their budget. All of these people on, you know, that have these channels online claim that they've got these great ideas for budgets and great tools that you can use for budgeting and all of that. In theory, they're great, but the problem is if you have to manually follow through with it and actually every month go in and set aside time to go put effort into filling that out, I promise you nobody's doing it. They're just not. They just sold you a book. They made, you know, $9.28 out of that $10.49 you spent on their book or whatever. So they profited. You bought a book that you're not going to use. But the upside is that, yes, making a budget is helpful. And so we'll go over the upside to it and how to actually make it useful. And that is by automating stuff. So first thing that I want to talk about, though, is, and we'll get into all of the nuts and bolts of all of that, but I'm going to show you some useful tools. So the first thing here is a website called investor.gov. Let me hide the calculator because we don't need that yet. So this is a website. It's a government website, so it's not paid for by any corporation, so there's not any corporate interest or anything like that. A lot of useful tools on here. Calculators and investing tools and things like that. The one that I want to show you is a compound interest calculator. So I just want to show you the reason that it's important to get started early, and it's the beauty of compound interest. So for example, I'm about to be 44 years old. Okay. So let's just say that I have $5,000. And as a 44-year-old person, let's say I'm planning on retiring at 65. That gives me 21 years. And let's say that I'm able to, with how much I make at work, let's say I'm going to be able to put in $1,000. And for sake of argument, and easy numbers, let's just say I'm going to be able to get 8% interest out of a retirement account. So my retirement account, by the time I retire, just by putting in $5,000 now and $1,000 a month until I retire, getting 8%. By the time I retire, I'll have put in about $250,000, but it'll be worth $630,000. But let's just say that I started 10 years ago. I would only put in about another 100,000, but it would have tripled in value. So that's why Warren Buffett always said that the best time to get into the stock market was 10 years ago, but the second best time is now. So just wanted to highlight the beauty of compound interest. And so it's extremely, extremely powerful what can happen by just getting started. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant or complicated. It just needs to be something that I recommend you just get started with, something very basic, even $10. Once it gets started, now here's the thing, if you look at it, it's very slow, very, very slow growth for a very long period of time until all of a sudden it's not. So, oh, you guys see my little French toast? She decided to come join us. She's into the financial stuff. So I wanted to just point that out as something to highlight. Now, before we get talking about budgets and all of that stuff, here's something that a lot of folks ask me about, is getting started with, where do I invest my money? Should I invest in this? Should I invest in that? Should I do this? Should I do that? The first thing we need to look at is, what are your current debts? And the reason why is, are you actively paying interest on any loans or credit cards or anything like that? Because if you're paying interest on any credit cards specifically, those tend to be very high interest. Whatever you're investing, whatever your returns on any investments, are likely not going to outweigh what you're paying in interest. And so the net result is you're losing money. And so the thing I'll show you is called the Rule of 72. Rule of 72 is a very basic way of estimating how long it takes for a balance to double. So what you do is you take 72 divided by the interest rate, and that equals the approximate number of years that it will take for that balance to double. So, for example, let's say that an average credit card charges roughly 30% interest. So if you're carrying a balance of, now I'm going to bring back my calculator. So if you're carrying a balance of say $2,000, and you're getting charged 30% interest in 2.4 years, guess what? If you're not paying it, 2.4 years, that doubles. You're paying four grand. But if you are only making 8% interest on, and you put 2 grand somewhere, guess what? It took you 9 years to double it. So you're way behind. So you're far better off to pay off whatever your debt is and basically get to zero before you start doing any investing is the bottom line that I'm getting to here. So that, I guess, is first and foremost, is getting out of any active debt. If you have things in collections, that's a different story, and something that we can look at on kind of a case-by-case basis. Things in collections can affect your credit, but typically don't charge interest on. So that balance tends to kind of just sit there. So it's an amount you owe a creditor, but they're not continuing to charge additional interest on. So then that would become more of a question of looking at, are you looking at repairing your credit score? So that'd be, we'll talk about credit as well. So I guess, we can show you kind of a basic of things that affect your credit. So these are kind of the 5 big factors that affect your credit score. There's payment history. So they look at, what your on-time payment history is across all of your accounts. Your credit utilization or amounts owed. So what your total available credit is versus how much of it is used. Length of credit history. So how long have you had those accounts? New credit. So how many new accounts have opened recently? And then types of credit. So are they all credit cards? Are they, do you have an auto loan? Do you have a home loan? Do you have a line of credit through your bank? Do you have credit cards? All of these different types of accounts are factored in. Do you have a mix, or is it all just one type of credit? And then additionally, there's other things that can affect credit. So business credit cards, for example, a lot of people don't know that if your company opens a business credit card with your name on it, that can affect your credit score. If you've got a bunch of credit applications recently, so if you went to open an account, say you went to get a car loan, and they check your credit at a bunch of different lenders, or you say you own a home and you wanted to get a remodel done and tried to get some special financing deal through them, and they check a bunch of different lenders. All of those things ding your credit as inquiries. So those all show up as credit applications. Accounts could be missing. Little unpaid debts that, could get reported. And then the mistakes that you didn't make. So it's important to check your credit report You can file a dispute with the major three big credit unions or credit reporting agencies. You can get a free credit report once a year. This is the only one that you can get it from for free that's actually like authorized by federal law. It's annualcreditreport.com. You can go there once a year, request a full free credit report from them, and that will give you all of the details from all three major credit bureaus. They will email it or mail it to you or whatever, and you can go through that and see everything that appears on your credit report. And if anything seems suspicious or incorrect, you can file a dispute right through the credit bureaus and then dispute the entry or the information. And if it's found to be inaccurate, it can either get removed or changed. I personally had gone through and done this on all three, and I found several things that were incorrect and immediately had a number of things removed, and it greatly improved my credit score. I went from when I first got out of treatment, I went from having, I think I had a like 440 or 450 roughly credit score, and I'm just shy. I'm just nudging up against 800 at this point. So I mean, it takes some work, but it there's some a lot of things that you need to do, but keeping an eye on these factors and making sure that I went in and found discrepancies and filed disputes, and I actively maintain credit utilization. I make sure I'm not applying for too many things. I haven't closed any credit cards since I've opened them, so that's another thing. If you open a credit card, keep it open forever. I have a credit card I opened, one of the first credit cards I got when I first started working on my credit. I have one bill that I charge to it every month, and I auto pay it in full on my billing cycle. It's just my dental insurance premium, I charge to it, and then I pay it in full, so that account stays active, and that's the only thing I use it for. It gets charged, I pay it off, and that's the only thing that it gets used for. And so I have low credit utilization, on-time payment, and long credit history with it. So it just continues to improve, my credit score because of it. And it doesn't have an annual fee. I don't get any rewards or anything for it, but because I opened it early on to start establishing credit, by closing it, it would actually hurt my credit score. So I keep it open. I have one bill that I put on it, and that's all I use it for. So as my credit scores improved, I've since gotten more attractive, rewards cards and things like that I use for other things that have, cashback rewards or travel miles or whatever. But that original card I still keep active because it actually would hurt my overall score if I closed it. So that's one pro tip I can give you, is if you ever open a credit account, keep it open and just put something that is going to be the same bill every month and auto pay it. Automation is your friend with all of this stuff. So that's the biggest tip I can give you with all of this, is to automate as much as possible. So with that, I'm going to take a look. Mitchell, do we have anything? I don't see anything over there, so I'm gonna no problem. So I'm going to open this up here real quick. We're gonna see how this looks. Real quick, like. All right, so we're gonna do a quick little breakdown on this. First things first, I'm going to no, that's fine. That's fine. So we're gonna do a quick little breakdown here on kind of how an ideal kind of spending budget should look. So this is more so what things will kind of pan out to be. Not so much a go back through and judge yourself harshly if you're not already there. So just to preface this, but what I would recommend is go back, take a look at what your spending habits have been. Get an idea of just no judgment. Don't, critique yourself too harshly, but go back and look at how you've spent your money in the past, just to get an idea, and it'll be kind of an enlightening experiment on this. So, yeah. So we're gonna go. Let's go like this here. So it's gonna be 50, 30, 20. So obviously, if you are quick with math, you will see that these add up to 100. So we'll know that these are percents. So this is going to break down our 50%. 50% of what we're spending a month. Ideally, this is going to be our expenses. So that, that's our must-haves, that's our necessities, that's our rent, that's our mortgage, that's our heat and electric bills, that's our, car payment, our gas, and food on the table, all the needs, all the have to have it. That's not our going out to, fancy restaurants. That's not our, new sneakers or new hats. Cough, Mitchell. fancy new video game controllers. That's not any of those things, right? That's also not me judging that stuff. It's but it's there's room for that in here. But the point is, when we do the analysis of where we're spending our money, we want to be very clear about which category these go in. Expenses are the things that we have to have in order to continue on with being able to do the rest of the things in life, right? So food in the cupboard, in the fridge, heat, electric, internet, regardless of what anybody says, that is, a requirement in modern life. Cell phone, so all of those things are necessary. Transportation, all of that. But so then the 30 and the 20, these are kind of my adaptations, and I'll go into a little bit more into my thinking on these. And I've taken bits from a few of the people that I've learned from online, and I'll break down a little bit more here how I kind of came to these. So the reasoning behind the breakdown here is to provide us with short-term, long-term, or short-term, mid-term, long-term stability, as well as growth, and giving ourselves permission to enjoy the money that we've earned. But then we're gonna connect back to that first thing that we talked about. We're gonna connect back to that philosophy that we talked about, which is where we're heading and why we're doing all of this. Okay, so the permission to spend money freely and without guilt on the things that get us towards that goal, that mission, that direction, that end result of that ideal end game, that ideal target. So if it's something that takes us towards that path, on that goal, then yeah, you've literally already budgeted, you've already given yourself permission to just spend the money freely towards that life that you've already defined for yourself. So yes, do it without guilt, without any kind of second thought. You've already defined that that's what you want, and that's what makes you happy and brings you joy. And we've already done the work to budget this out, and I'm going to show you some ways to set up some systems and some automation so that the money's already where it's supposed to be. So you'll know that when you see the money in that account, that's what that's for, is to have fun with and spend it freely. So our 30%. This is our short-term, mid-term, long-term savings and investing. Oops, if I can spell. Now let's shrink that up a little bit so it fits. So the first 10 we're going to call our short term. and that is like savings, high yield savings, and things like that. So it's available, but it's working for us. Now again, going back to what I talked about as far as before we start doing any kind of savings or investing, we need to be back to zero, or at least not paying anybody interest on credit cards. Because if we're paying somebody 30% on a credit card, we're losing money on anything we're going to be talking about here. This is a great time to give you the disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor, so take this all with a grain of salt. And if you're really like seeking out investing advice on a high end level, like other than just kind of getting started or on a philosophical level here, you should probably seek out a financial planner, a certified financial planner, because I'm not one of those, but this is what worked for me. So that's my little disclaimer there, in case there's any lawyers out there looking to sue me. But a high yield savings account. So this is where we're going to quick hide this, and I'm going to talk about that for just a second. Whoop, not that one, the other one. So here's the other website I want to show you. This is bankrate.com. This is a really great website for checking all sorts of stuff. So we talked about credit cards. If you're ever looking for a credit card, rather than looking at those emails or things you get in the mail that are trying to sell you one or entice you into getting one, instead of that, come here. They can actually show you kind of mostly impartially all sorts of different options for stuff. But what I want to show you on here is high yield savings. This, in a very mostly impartial way, I'm sure they get some sort of a cut from this stuff, but like they show you just very matter-of-factly current things for high interest savings accounts. So like you can just go on here and find there's a zero balance. It's a member of FDIC, so your money's insured. You can get close to 5% on your money, and it's a savings account. So I have a similar account myself. I'm getting basically the same rate. It's very similar. Actually, this is the account I have. So through Lending Club, that's the one I've got. And it's literally a savings account. If I needed my money, I could literally transfer it from my savings account today. It would be in whatever account I transferred it to within a couple of days. And so it's cash sitting in a savings account, earning 5%, no balance minimum. And so it's short-term available cash that sits and earns interest while I sleep. So it's far better than a regular savings account, because as you see, that's probably what most savings accounts earn, is 0.01% through like normal banks. So instead of doing that, I get a high interest savings account to have short-term cash available on hand. So, a few $100, whatever, feels like a decent slush fund. And then 10% of whatever money comes in from my paychecks automatically goes to that savings account. It just is automated. You can set it up from direct deposit, or if your direct deposit doesn't let you split your check as far as your direct deposit payout, then what you do instead is from your bank once a month. You just set up, a direct transfer, or however often you get paid or whatever. You just can set up automated transfers or whatever that way. But if you have direct deposit, most payroll services will allow you to do multiple direct deposit splits. So we'll go back to this. So that's the 10% going to a high yield savings. So then the next 10% is midterm, which is something that is going to sit a little bit longer, and maybe ideally earn a little bit more, as far as a little bit higher interest, a little bit potentially higher risk, higher reward. Maybe it has to sit a little bit longer, and for me, that's a stock market account, or you could do like a Roth IRA. So this is where this will be more of another session, because we're getting close to what I told myself was going to be an hour-long live stream here. But the advantage of Roth IRA, if you don't already have some sort of retirement account, there's several advantages to Roth IRAs. The one I like the most is that even though it's a retirement account, any dollars that I put in myself, so let's say over the course of the year I put in $1,000. That $1,000 I can pull back out without penalty, even though it's a retirement account. So whatever capital I put in, I can pull back out if I need to use it without penalty. The only thing that would be penalized as a withdrawal from the retirement account is any growth or any dividends or anything like that in the account. I don't want to do that because I want my account to continue to grow, and the only way it grows is by keeping it in there. But that is a nice safety net to have as kind of a midterm safety net for my financial kind of foundation. And then the other 10% is my long term. And this is, my retirement. And that's, maybe it's another form of some other retirement account that you may have, or maybe it's a 401k with work, or whatever. I will tell you, if the place you work has a 401k where the company matches, the best advice I can give you is maximize that company match. The place that I was working up until yesterday had a 50% match up to the first 6% that I put in. So if I put in 6% or a 50% match, what it amounted to was, if I put in 7% of my paycheck, they would match 3.5%. So from my 7%, it turned into 10.5. So basically, I was getting 50 cents on the dollar. So no matter what happened in the stock market, I was up 50% before anything happened. So there's that there's nobody in the stock market that's beating 50% gains. It doesn't happen. And so then when the stock market's up, I'm 50% plus whatever the stock market was up. And when the stock market's down, I started at 50% up and then subtract a little bit. So if you start to look at it that way, you'll see how much money you're leaving on the table if you're not taking advantage of that on your 401k. And I understand when people are like, but I need that money now. Well, sure. I get that. There are a lot of ways in this world to make a little bit more money. There's not very many ways to make huge amounts of money down the road compared to what compound interest will do. And I just want to go back to show you this scenario one more time. So let's just do this. In this same scenario where this same person who was putting in $1,000 a month had a 401k match that was getting 50%. And let's just change that to 1,500. And that's it. That's all we're changing. They just got almost another $1 million. So for just taking advantage of a 401k match. So that alone was worth almost $1 million. So that's the beauty of compound interest there. So this is our 30%. So like this part, to reiterate though, all of that comes in once we're done with paying off the recurring credit card interest and anything that is currently charging us, big interest rates, then we can start looking at these things. We'll get into those in future sessions. We'll dive further into this stuff. But for now, that's where I'm going to leave that. 20%. This is what we're all here for. This is what we gave ourselves permission to do. Is the fun. That's that whole goal. So the big takeaway, the whole point of that first exercise is for this 20%. Picture a pressure cooker. It just builds and builds and builds and builds, and that steam just compresses and compresses and compresses and compresses, and there's that release valve, and all of a sudden that steam just shoots right out. That's what happens to us with money when we keep telling ourselves over and over and over, you can't spend on this, you can't spend on that, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's why those impulse aisles at the grocery store work. That's why, we grab that Snickers bar. That's why we grab the soda can at the checkout aisle. That's why we get all of those little things. We need a release valve. We just got to spend that little bit. And so instead, when we have a picture of what we want to spend that money on what we want to give ourselves permission to buy and you know, have fun with and do and experience, it becomes so much easier and so much more guilt free to just know that we've given ourselves permission. So what I recommend is you have an account set up for your bills, and you figure out how much all of those bills are going to cost you. What, you know, you look at how much is my rent, how much am I paying for a cell phone, what's my car payment, what's my usual electric bill, you know, figure all of that out and make sure that that much is going in there every paycheck, you know, whatever that is. And, you know, if that's right now, if that's 50% of your paycheck, if it's 60%, whatever that is, have that getting put in there automatically. Another account, separate account, is set up. That's the account that is your fun account, okay? And you've got an account for your savings. You know, set up, go to bankrate.com, find one that'll do your high yield savings, and, you know, get it all set up to automate. And if you've got questions, if you're not sure how to do these things, send me a message. I'm happy to do you know, we can do a one-on-one. You know, we can set up more personalized things and look into this stuff closer. I'm happy to answer questions. But this is what worked for me was diving into this stuff. But the most important thing for me was to automate this stuff, because once the systems are in place, I don't have to think about it. It's just automated. It just happens automatically. I know that the money's there. I know that it's all taken care of. The bills get paid automatically. And then whatever's left, the money that shows up in the phone account, that's what it's there for. It's supposed to be easy. You know, once the systems are in place, it's not supposed to be complicated. So, but yeah, we can get into some of the more, you know, how to make the money work for you in some of these future episodes. Yeah, tell me what you thought. If you've got questions, please, I want to hear them. I want to know how we can make this more helpful. Yeah, let me know what you think. Standard YouTube sign off. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can be tuned in when we do another one. But yeah, hop over on our Facebook page and tune in there. Get on our Discord, start a conversation there. Yeah, we want to hear from you. So with that, we're at exactly the hour I had allotted for this. So we did it. Thanks for tuning in. Please let me know if you've got any questions. We want to hear from you. So appreciate it.